I played 16 games, and what did I get? Material for a new video to pay my debt. Every 6 months I do an examination where I play games that got no one's consideration. I played 16 games for 30 minutes each, and my email was the only place they've breached. I found them next to spam, scams, and network programs, suspicious payoffs, pages of ripoffs, and an offer for detox. That's the stuff you'd find in my inbox. If I had a nickel for every puzzle platformer from my inbox that I played this past week, I'd have 25 cents. On Rusty Trails is a common but uncommonly good unknown puzzle platformer that differentiates itself starting with a slick presentation. Snappy, responsive controls and a sharp, striking screen of clean artwork has you platforming while a doopy soundtrack of freestyle robo-jazz twirls about in the background. The gameplay gimmick is that you're exploring the societal differences of two argumentative peoples by way of swapping through disguises of both of them, passing through hazards one costume's immune to that insta-kills the other on a frame-by-frame basis. Since you magnetically stick to walls and ceilings, you have an interesting series of levels that force you to rethink typical platformer conventions of where the ground and gravity are supposed to be. Even some of the weirdest gravity-defying platformers might have steered you in the wrong direction for where this game wants you to go. Just when I thought I'd know what to expect out of this sort of affair, Rusty Trails kept throwing something new at me, and it all comes in fast through quick, almost Meat Boy-sized levels. Games like this are why this series exists. Every once in a while I'm lucky enough to discover a game that's not just an overlooked gem, but actually really fantastic by its own right. I have a sneaking suspicion that this game might have already achieved a cultish fanbase and that I'm just gonna look like an idiot by never noticing it, but anyways. Captain Forever Remix is a game where you build lumbering heavy spaceships out of grid-shaped parts and then slowly saunter them into slippy, slidey physics battles of maneuverability. You're struggling to rotate, strafe, and thrust your armor towards the enemy's weapons and your weapons towards the enemy's cockpit. Your ship is a fully customizable demonstration of how quickly you can understand and improvise the physics and control systems here, frantically slapping back together your broken ship mid-combat. The whole concept of this game's gameplay is a beautifully personalizable software toy, and it's all presented within the style of a 90s Nickelodeon cartoon and the trappings of a modern roguelite. You have just one shot to make it to the end, but you're not likely to. So instead, you progress through just enough levels to unlock fancier ship parts that'll eventually get you there. I love it! It's stylish, it's confident, playing it creates comedy and fun in a way that not enough games do and more games should. What we have here is a dirt cheap, completely amateur one-man take on a Bloodborne clone. It's certainly not as refined as the other games on this list, hell, let alone any other game you might play this year, but I always like taking a dive into amateur projects like these to see demakes distill the essence of what inspired them. Lo-fi art combined with ample freedom to play with the macabre gives this game a truly sinister atmosphere. It reminds me of staying up late to play horror point-and-clicks on Newgrounds. But in this case, we're not pointing and clicking, we are stopping and slashing a la Soulsborne. But the animations here lack frames, movement lacks tweening, the backgrounds lack a coherent perspective, and the player's hits lack feedback. There's few crunchy freeze frames, subtle screen shakes, or satisfying sound effects, but despite all that, we still have an incredibly satisfying and addicting process of fighting for new progress inch by inch. Atmospheric levels, EXP retrievals, and demanding enemies draw up the kind of immersion and determination that makes the story seem better than it is, the mysteries more enticing than they should be, and the typos forgivable. My rule is to usually play these inbox games for 30 minutes, but this one kept me going for an hour and a half and I was totally sucked in for the whole run. And I actually want to come back to see what's at the end of this game. The Way is another atmospheric adventure that I want to come back to and see what's at the end of it. What starts by masquerading as a pretty point-and-click adventure with good pixel art is actually more of a stealthy puzzle side-scroller, sampling elements of Another World and Heart of Darkness with a kind of gunpoint perspective to make lightweight but hard-hitting cyberpunk scenes. It's nothing new and unique, but it is special. It is very well executed. It's a pixelated realization of 90s sci-fi with vivid world building, as seen through an unreliable protagonist with morbid goals. Puzzles aren't too abstract. They're all playing with variables that make sense for the motivations the story set up for you, and the process of sneaking through a top-secret metal base evokes memories of Deus Ex and Metal Gear Solid, and did I mention it has good pixel art? It looks good, it feels good, and it also truly feels like a competent sibling to the games and science fiction that inspired it. No clue why this one isn't more popular. Lonely Star is a survivalist tribal American RPG set in a weird wild wasteland, where just journeying to a gas station in the desert is a terrifying trek from a starting town that feels like a hippie commune crossed with a doomsday cult. Complicating your spirit journey formation are wild animals that don't attack unless cornered, a talk button that's labeled as a listen button, and hallucinogenic plumes of smoke that suddenly turn the world into a nightmarish trippy hellscape. And all those mechanics and tones also serve as reminders of just how disconnected from reality your character is, because for what a strange adventure you're going on, the places you go to don't look that unremarkable. Surviving in this real-life wasteland means budgeting a diet of junk food, raw corn, and bottled water, breaking into maintenance shacks to spend the night, and shining your flashlight on any wild animals eyeing your stash. It reminds me of bicycle touring. It's an unapologetically ugly game, but there is a kind of naturalist beauty to the experience. In short, it's rough around the edges for the right reasons, to create an aggressive, grungy, anti-establishment American road trip.